Hi guys, hey, we're in Pittsburg, Texas, and we're at the Northeast Texas Rural Heritage Museum, and this is the farmstead over here. And we already saw the other part of the museum, the depot part, but this farmstead is got a lot of history about the families that lived here and how they lived, and Randy's going to show us around. Come on, watch.
And I was born here in Pittsburg, Texas. Grew up here. Grew up next to the Hoffman farm. We were farmers also. The Hoffman house, barn, and smokehouse was moved here about 30 years ago. This historic structure was given by Hal W. Hoffman on behalf of his brothers and sisters in memory of their parents, Jesse and Charlie Hoffman. I knew Charlie Hoffman, but I never did know Jessie. She passed away in 1933. I'd like to pay tribute to Sybil French. She was the first lady to work here at the museum, and she was instrumental in getting this set up and going. And she talked every Saturday to Hal Hoffman about what was going on here. And she knew a lot of the family history because Mr. Charlie's second wife was her aunt, and she knew the Hoffman family like I did.
Wow.
We used to have chickens at the Farmstead Museum, but on 2 occasions dogs broke in there, or a dog, and killed all 15 of our chickens. So
Aww.
we did fix it back the last time, and we quit having chickens. But chickens are important to Kemp County. When cotton and sweet potatoes left, chickens and cattle came in, and that's a big part of our economy. Here in Pittsburgh, chickens are important to us. I point out the tin building that's now Anvil Brewing Company and Restaurant. In 1946, Aubrey Pilgrim opened Farmers Feed and Seed in that building. He sold feed, and they kept live chickens out back for sale. And in 1947, when Bo Pilgrim graduated from high school, he joined him in that business, and right there is where Pilgrim's Pride started, and grew into a world class Fortune 500 poultry company, which was broilers, which were chickens, and also eggs, which they bought other companies and became large, but they took on too much debt and had to file for bankruptcy. So
I hadn't heard that part. We knew about Bo Pilgrim and his brother getting all that started out here. That's a big part of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, they were bought out by JBS, and the world headquarters moved from here to Greeley, Colorado. But the feed mill is here that still feeds the chickens in the area, and there's about as many contract growers as there's always been, but not as many company farms. You know, I'm surprised to learn some people don't know the purpose of a windmill was to pump water before we had electricity in the country. And the windmill is a symbol of rural America, and rural America provides food for the rest of America. The windmill helped settle the West. There is the well where the Hoffmans drew water for their household use and for their animals.
A perfect day for this, you guys. Perfect day.
I remember when I was a child growing up next to Miss Charlie and Miss Mary, the second wife that I knew. They came to this barn every morning, and they milked Jersey cows by hand. And they would strain the milk and put it in milk cans similar to this one, and they would put it out by the road.
By the road?
By the road, and a man named Morris Davis that had a 2-ton truck and a trailer would come and pick up the milk can and pick up others out there on that route and take it to the boarding plant in Mount Pleasant, Texas, where it was processed and made into condensed milk. It was a grade B dairy at that time, and there were a lot of people doing that. I'll point to these implements. Mr. Charlie Hoffman, he never owned a tractor. He was a horse and mule man, and when the kids were growing up on the farm, they helped a breaking plow pulled by a team of horses and mules, cut the soil and turned it upside down and put the weeds and the grass and the insects on the bottom. The planter was pulled by a team.
Oh,
and
way
the
over
farmer
there.
walked behind the plow and the planter, and when he farmed 5 acres, he had walked 40 miles.
Wow.
So he got a lot of exercise. This is an improvement. This is a riding planter. The plates go in here. This plate here with these holes puts the seeds far apart. The plate on the bottom is for peas, puts the seed close together. That was an improvement. This is a John Deere breaking plow. You can tell by the green and yellow color. John Deere invented the steel plow, the man John Deere. And he was he was a blacksmith. He was big in farm implements. And they finally acquired Waterloo Boy in Waterloo, Iowa, and that's where the tractors began. John Deere tractor, but the man John Deere had already passed away by then. One thing they did back then, this is a syrup mill. There's a long pole attached here, and a horse or a mule walked in the circle and turned these rollers. They fed the ribbon cane in here. They captured the juice coming down this spout, and they put it in that copper pan like hanging on the wall. They put it over a hot fire and they boil that juice to thicken it to make ribbon cane syrup. The baffles was to remove impurities, and they scooped the foam off of the syrup, and when it was thick enough, they drained it out this hole into what they call syrup buckets, which were metal syrup buckets. Here's a picture of them making syrup with the mule walking in a circle attached to the pole. They're feeding the cane into the rollers and capturing the juice. It was like a social event here. A lot of people showed up to help, and some drank juice and some ate cane, and some of them just visited.
So this is John Deere also?
It is.
Yeah, you can see some green, y'all. You can see some of the green on there. You know, John Deere, the green and yellow. Yeah, they're famous. But, see, I can't wait to get a garden, y'all. Can't wait to start a garden. Oh, man.
When I was a little boy, I played around this smokehouse. I turned that blower on that forge. That forge was used for shaping metal. You put coal in here, you build a fire, and you turn this blower, and it gets real hot. You put your plow point in here and get it real hot, and you beat it out on this anvil with a hammer like you want it. You also do the same with a horseshoe for shoeing horses. Luckily, as a child, I never did get my finger in that hole there, or it would have cut it off.
Yeah.
This hole here, the cat used to go in there to control the rats.
the kitty door, the pet door.
Now we did the ribbon cane syrup in October before frost. Because the cane wouldn't be good after frost or freeze. Between Thanksgiving and Christmas, we usually killed hogs. We had fed the hog out, and we slaughtered the hog. We hung him up. We dipped him in scalding water. We scraped the hair off of him with a bell scraper. We put him on the flatbed trailers that we had, and we cut him up. We had lots of help from the community. We cut up the hams and shoulders, and we rubbed salt on them and put them in salt, and we turned them every day and rubbed them with salt. We took the scrap meat and we ground it and seasoned it with salt, pepper, and sage, and we stuffed it in that sack, and that was our pork sausage.
That's sausage.
We took the fat skin and the fat meat, and we put it in that wash pot over that hot fire, and we boil that, and from that we got lard from the fat, and from the skin we got cracklings. And this is what we did for a long time when all the kids, there were 6 of us and there were 6 of the Hoffman kids, but we quit doing that in 1960 when everybody had left home but me.
Oh, that's a lot of work, y'all. I saw a lady that was making lard. It's a lot of work. and a pretty long process cooking down the fat. It is. It's a lot of work. I don't know if I could handle
those
that
fried
now.
potatoes in a lot.
All
Here's
right.
a painting of the house, the way it looked when it set out on the Pistol Mill Road, about 4.5 miles. And I remember when I was growing up, these evergreens were a lot larger than they are in that picture. There is the well where they drew water, and that's the gate to the garden.
Aww.
The little garage is still out there on the land. It's in bad shape, but it's still there. The oak trees are gone, and it's like a hay meadow now. The Hoffmans still own the land. The picture was donated by Buddy Hoffman, Thomas Alton Hoffman, one of the children. This is my Aunt Esther. She was born here in 1905. And she was my Aunt Esther because in 1924 she married my Uncle Junior. That's Arthur Sanders Jr. That was my mother's brother. And they lived next door to us also. And I saw a lot of her growing up. She worked at Garrett's department store, and when Uncle Junior lost his legs, I used to drive her to work when he couldn't drive with a clutch and a 4 in the floor. So I drove her to work, and then I would go on to school.
Now, is this all furnished with original furniture, or is it donated? Or because this is pretty awesome stuff here.
Well, some of it is donated, and some of it is actually their thing.
Oh, okay. So there is some original pieces,
Yeah.
huh?
That's right.
Look at this. Look at that.
This lamp
Uh-huh.
came from the founder of Pittsburgh's home, Major William Harrison Pitts. It was in his house. It was an oil lamp. You let down the chain from the ceiling to fill the oil, but it's an electric light now.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
This is William Lowell Hoffman, and he lived in Wills Point, Texas. And the reason he lived in Wills Point, his wife was from there, and he was in the retail business. And he was suddenly ill in 1956 and passed away at a young age.
Yeah, I had one of those. I have my viola still too.
This was the girls' room. They actually entertained their friends in here. This is a record player.
Oh, look at that.
Aunt Esther and Estelle, this was their room. Now at one time, this was open. It was a breezeway or dog trot, as they called it.
Yeah, looks like it. You know, you can see a lot of the first homesteaders did that.
Yeah.
Keeps it cool.
And this is one of the last things that Mr. Charlie did was close this in.
Yeah.
When they got a phone, the neighbors would come and use the phone. They needed to make a call. That was an indication not everybody had a phone back then. When I came along, we were on a party line. Everybody had a different ring. People could listen in on your calls.
Yeah, I've been there. Hey, yeah, I'm that old. Yeah, we had a party line, and yes, you could listen in.
Sewing machine was important to them. They
Yeah.
made their own clothes, and from the scraps they made quilts.
Sure. Yep. Look at that embroidery, guys. Oh, you guys don't. Guys don't know what real embroidery is. Some women do, and that's very detailed work, and it's beautiful.
This is Jessie Lee Mitchell with her brothers and sisters. Aunt Esther tells me that she was related to Margaret Mitchell that wrote Gone with the Wind.
Ooh.
Here she is in this picture. She raised chickens and sold eggs. This is sometimes before 1933. There was a place here, a produce company, that bought eggs and butter. She raised chickens. There's the house before 1933. It didn't have any paint on it then, and when I was growing up, it didn't have any paint on it. I don't know how it's lasted so long. The shotgun is a 12-gauge double-barrel Damascus steel. Being in the country, it was probably loaded. They milked the cows a long time until Mr. Charlie started going blind. Here's a picture of them milking the cows, the Jersey cows that they had. Sold the milk to Borden's. Of course, they kept some of it to churn for butter, have buttermilk.
So this room is over 100 years old. This was home until they had 2 girls. They cooked in the fireplace.
Some of the toys of the time, monkey on a string. They played. They played with wooden toys and dominoes. Here's some of the clothes of the.
I've played with one of those before.
This was the boys' room. These quilts were Ms. Mary Hoffman's quilts. I know the names on these quilts. Right there is Henderson on that one.
Oh, yeah, they're embroidered in there.
They churned butter in that butter churn. And when they pressed the water out of it with this butter mold, they had a pound of butter. They'd sometimes trade that to a peddler for something they wanted. They sold butter and eggs sometimes to a produce broker in town. An ice cream freezer.
Yep. Been there, done that.
The meat grinder, like the scrap meat we made, we ground and mixed the salt and pepper and the sage with to make the pork sausage back then.
Done that too, baby.
This possum belly cabinet sloped like that for scooping flour and meal from.
Ah, see? Yep. Makes sense, doesn't it?
You know, when the kids were growing up, they didn't go to town every day like I do now to buy something. They had the chickens and the eggs from the hen house. They had the milk and the butter from the barn. They had the syrup from the syrup mill. They had these are hickory nuts. This is wood for the wood stove. Now this is not the Hoffman stove. This is a stove that Sybil bought when she first started working here. And it works. And her and the kids would spend the night here and they would bake cookies and cakes and pies and biscuits.
Wow.
So it works and has been used. The Hoffman stove was much larger than this, but it had a hot water compartment like this for a bath on Saturday night.
Wow.
If you were going to, or Saturday afternoon, if you were going to town, you had to have a bath whether you needed one or not. And if you were going to church, you had to have a bath. Of course, the bath in here in the wintertime was in the same wash tub they used on hog killing day and wash day.
Oh, okay.
Kitchen. They took the fat and lye and made lye soap that they used for washing themselves and for washing clothes and just about every need. This is Mr. Charlie's clippers. He cut hair on the back porch for 25 cents a head back then.
Look at that.
The best I can do is $13. His razor for sharpening, the razor strap for sharpening the razor. I left the razor out there on the shelf one day and it came up missing, so I don't have his razor anymore. That what you're looking at there is bluing. This is the lock that came off of Grandpa's room. It was a skeleton key lock. It finally wore out being opened so many times.
This will make your whites look pretty.
Yeah, whiter.
Whiter.
Bluing.
It's called bluing.
Bluing makes
I know how to use that too.
Yeah. Electricity, if you had a washing machine, you had to run it with a gasoline motor. And notice that the dasher is on top. Well, Mr. Maytag discovered that the dasher worked better on the bottom, and he came up with that idea. Here is where the building was cut to move it here, and where it was put back together.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
This is Grandpa's room. It's separate and apart from everybody. Back then, they didn't put elderly in the nursing home. They took care of them. And Grandpa lived to be 85 years old, and he was in pretty good health until for Some reason he went to Texarkana and he died in the hospital up there. I don't know what happened.
Well, he had his own little room.
There's his long-handled underwear.
Wow.
He didn't go to the outhouse at night. He used this chamber pot, and he emptied it in the morning. There's his pipe, the Prince Albert that he smoked. I pointed this picture right here.
Mm-hmm.
In 1904, they created 9 of those watermelons and shipped to St. Louis to the St. Louis World's Fair, and they won first place and got a medal. That was the Harrison boys.
See,
Big Sad mother thought would cure anything.
Yeah.
The snuff, Garrett snuff, the dots on the bottom indicate the strength of it.
I didn't know that. Yeah. I remember that too. It's pretty cool.
Grandpa passed away in 28. His wife, Mary Jane, passed away in 1913.
There you go. You guys, Andy's just showing us everything and all the history. This is so awesome, you guys. I love hearing about history, how the settlers came in, who started everything, how they lived, and the hardships. But that was everyday life for everybody, okay? It's not like today where it's everything automated, okay? So I like to learn what they went through and how they lived. Is awesome.
They didn't have electricity, therefore they didn't have running water. So this was the only way to go, was the outhouse.
Fair enough.
People say, why is the moon on the outhouse? Well, they tell me that in colonial times, people didn't read and write so well, so they used symbols for things. The moon was a symbol for the woman, and the sun was a symbol for the man. So the moon became a symbol for the restroom. It also let some light in.
Yeah.
If you didn't have toilet paper, you used the Sears catalog.
Of course.
And if you didn't have the Sears catalog, you used those corn cobs, and that was kind of rough.
You know it. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you, Randy.
I enjoyed telling people about the Hoffman farm, the farmstead.
Well, guys, this is awesome. Randy grew up here. He knew the family that lived in this home. He knew so much information. It's so cool. He did an awesome job. And you guys, I don't know, the history around here and the farmstead and the stuff that people lived, totally different, you guys. And it's awesome. It's awesome. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and like. Please like. All right, talk to you later.
Strange RV tours will take you places with Greg and Janet's smiling faces. You might see a crazy flavored soda review or some tips to fit your RV too. So come along, won't you join us, friend, as we discover what's around the bend. Just sit right back in your easy chair. Strange RV Tours is on the air. Strange RV Tours is on